I pretended to have a stroke and lost everything overnight. My orthopedic surgeon son said he was too busy with a medical conference. My attorney son said his husband didn't want drama in their home. But my youngest, a night shift nurse who barely makes rent, she took me in without hesitation. She sold her car to pay for my therapy. And when my lawyer walked through that door with the truth, the look on their faces was something I will carry with me forever. My name is Victor Pierce. I'm 61 years old, and I built Pierce Construction Company from nothing into an $89 million business. Started as a carpenter's apprentice when I was 18, worked my way up swinging hammers and pouring concrete until I had crews working across 3 states. By every measure society uses to define success, I had achieved it all. But that November evening, standing alone in my lake house, I understood something my accountants could never calculate. I was wealthy beyond measure and utterly bankrupt in everything that mattered. The silence of my lake house was deafening that evening. Not the peaceful kind of quiet that comes with retirement and reflection, but the hollow kind that reminds you of everyone who should be there but isn't. I stood at the window overlooking the Sierra Nevada mountains, watching the last light fade. My wife Helen would have loved this sunset. She'd been gone 8 years now, and some evenings I still turned to tell her about my day, forgetting for just a moment that her chair would be empty. You know how it is when you build something from scratch. Every nail I hammered, every foundation I poured, every contract I signed was for them, for my family. I wanted my kids to have opportunities I never had. I wanted them to go to the best schools, live in the best neighborhoods, marry the right people. I thought I was giving them everything. Turns out, I was teaching them that everything has a price. The phone rang at 6:47 p.m. My eldest Theodore, the one I'd put through medical school. $400,000 for his education alone. He'd become an orthopedic surgeon, successful, respected. Everything a father dreams of for his son. Dad, glad I caught you? His voice was clipped, efficient. The voice of a man fitting a phone call between more important obligations. Listen, I need to talk to you about something. My heart lifted for a moment. Maybe he wanted to visit. Maybe he was calling just to talk. Maybe after all these years of short conversations and missed holidays, he was finally reaching out to connect. There's a medical device startup looking for investors, cutting-edge orthopedic monitoring technology. I need $300,000 to secure my position. The returns could be incredible, Dad. $300,000. Not how are you feeling? Not, I miss you. Not when can I see you? Just a number, just another transaction between us. That's significant, Theodore. Tell me more about it. He launched into an explanation that sounded rehearsed, heavy on projections and market analysis, light on connection or genuine conversation, technical jargon about surgical implants and monitoring systems, numbers and percentages and profit margins. By the time he finished, I already knew what I would say, but I asked anyway. Will you come for Thanksgiving next week? We could discuss this properly face to face. I could meet Patricia, see how Nathan's doing in school. There was a pause. I could practically hear him scrolling through his mental calendar, calculating the inconvenience. That's going to be tough, Dad. The orthopedic conference in Denver is that weekend. It's been scheduled for months, very important for my career. But I need an answer on the investment soon. Can you just wire it to my account? I can send you all the paperwork electronically. Just wire it, like I was his personal ATM. Like 43 years of building a business was just there for his convenience. I told him I'd think about it, and we said goodbye the way people do when there's nothing real left to say. Quick, efficient, meaningless. The second call came 40 minutes later. My son Alexander, the one I'd invested $350,000 in for Yale Law School. He'd become a corporate attorney in Manhattan, married to a hedge fund manager, living in a penthouse on the Upper East Side. Hi, Dad. His voice had that particular brightness that meant he wanted something. I'd heard it enough times over the years to recognize it immediately. I have an opportunity I need to discuss with you. Here we go again. I waited. Gerald and I are looking at a vacation property in the Hamptons. It would be perfect for entertaining clients, really advance my career in corporate law. The networking opportunities alone would be incredible. I just need $250,000 for the down payment. $250,000. Another number. Another son calling about money instead of calling about me. Another request that treated me like a resource rather than a father. Alexander, that's a lot of money. Can you come visit soon? We could talk about this. Together. I'd love to see you both. Spend some time catching up. Maybe after the holidays, Dad. Things are absolutely crazy with the firm right now. I'm working on this massive merger, 80-hour weeks. But the Hamptons property won't wait. These opportunities move fast in the current market. Can you let me know about the down payment soon? I could hear Gerald saying something in the background, probably calculating their social calendar, figuring out which yacht club they had joined. I'll get back to you, I said, and we hung up. I sat in the darkness of my lake house for a long time after that. 2 sons, 2 requests, 2 reminders that somewhere along the way I had become a resource rather than a father, a checkbook with legs, a means to an end. Helen used to worry about this. She'd say, "Victor, you're giving them everything, but are you teaching them anything?" I thought she was being dramatic. I thought providing for them was the same as loving them. I thought success would make them. Happy would make us closer. I was wrong about a lot of things. The third call came at 8:15 p.m. "Dad, hi. I hope I'm not calling too late." It was Linda, my daughter, the one who had surprised us all by choosing nursing school instead of the prestigious paths her brothers had taken. $45,000 for her education, a fraction of what I'd spent on Theodore and Alexander. She worked night shifts at a county hospital, lived in a small apartment with her husband Philip, a high school history teacher. Something in her voice was different from her brothers, something genuine, something that didn't have that calculating tone I'd grown to recognize. "Linda, it's good to hear from you. How are you doing?" "I'm good, Dad. Really good. Philip and I have been talking about some stuff, and everything's fine. I just hadn't talked to you in a while, and I wanted to call and see how you were. Are you eating well? Are you taking your blood pressure medication? You sounded tired the last time we talked." She wasn't asking for anything. She was asking about me. I couldn't remember the last time one of my children had called, just to check on my well-being. Not Theodore with his investment opportunities, not Alexander with his real estate ventures, but Linda, the one I had secretly worried about for choosing a modest path, had given me something priceless. Her time, her genuine concern, her love without conditions. "I'm doing okay," I said, though I wasn't sure that was true. "How's work at the hospital?" "Busy. We're short-staffed again, so I've been picking up extra shifts. But I love what I do, you know? Last week I helped this elderly man who came in during a panic attack. He was so scared, thought he was having a heart attack. I just sat with him, held his hand until his family arrived. His daughter reminded me so much of you, Dad. The way she rushed in, so worried about her father. We talked for half an hour about her work, about Philip's students, about the stray cat they'd adopted, that they couldn't really afford to keep, about nothing important and everything that mattered. She told me about the community garden they'd started in their neighborhood, how Philip was teaching kids about history through local Civil War sites. Real things, human things. When we hung up, something crystallized inside me. A decision that had been forming in the shadows of my mind suddenly became clear. I had spent decades building a fortune, thinking it was the same as building a family. I had confused providing with loving, success with connection. And now, at 61, I needed to know something. I needed to know if I had raised children who understood what family means, or if I had simply raised very expensive strangers. I picked up my phone and called my oldest friend, Leonard Barnes, my attorney for 35 years. We'd started out together, 2 young guys trying to make it in a tough world. He'd handled my business contracts, my real estate deals, my wife's will when Helen died. He was the closest thing to a brother I had left. "Leonard, it's Victor. I need your help with something." "Something unusual?" "It's past 9 p.m., Victor. This better be good. Martha's already giving me the evil eye for taking a call during our show. Tell Martha I'm sorry. This couldn't wait." I heard him move to another room, probably his study. Leonard always took my serious calls in his study. "All right, what's going on?" I explained what I wanted to do. The idea that had been growing in my mind since those phone calls. He listened without interrupting, which was Leonard's way when he was really paying attention. When I finished, there was a long silence. "Victor," he said finally, "you're 61 years old. You're talking about faking a medical crisis and pretending to lose everything. Do you understand the risks? What if something goes wrong? What if one of them calls 911? What if they try to get you committed? That's why I need your help to do it safely," I said. You know me, Leonard. You know. I've thought this through. Have you? Because this sounds like the plan of a man who's been alone too long. Why don't you just talk to them? Tell them how you feel? Tell them what? That their father is disappointed in who they've become? That would go over real well. Theodore would analyze me like a medical case study, and Alexander would probably threaten to sue me for emotional distress. Leonard sighed. I could picture him rubbing his forehead the way he did when he was thinking through a difficult legal problem. Walk me through it again. Slowly. We spent 3 hours that night planning. Leonard was thorough, like always. A medical team standing by. Security at a distance. A believable story about a stroke causing cognitive impairment. About bad investments wiping out my fortune. About a successful businessman who had lost everything in a single month through a combination of medical crisis and poor judgment. The story was designed to be believable because it happens every day. Elderly people suffer medical events, make poor decisions, lose everything to unscrupulous advisors or their own impaired judgment. My sons would have no reason to doubt it. They probably expected something like this to happen eventually. You need to understand, Leonard said as we wrapped up our planning, this isn't just about them. This is about you too. What you learn might not be what you want to know. I already know they don't need me, I said. The question is whether they love me. Leonard made me promise that if anything felt truly dangerous, I would call him immediately. He would have a medical team on standby, security watching from a distance, legal documentation ready to prove the whole thing was staged if anything went seriously wrong. I will, I said. We both knew I probably wouldn't unless I absolutely had to. The transformation took 2 weeks to prepare. First, I needed to look the part. I stopped taking care of myself in the ways that wealth enables. I let my hair grow unkempt. I stopped shaving regularly. I wore clothes from a thrift store in Carson City, items that hung loose on my frame and told a story of decline. The hardest part was looking at myself in the mirror. The man who stared back looked 10 years older than he should. His eyes held a desperate quality that wasn't entirely an act. Then came the harder part. I had to sell the lie. Leonard helped me craft the narrative. A stroke 3 weeks ago that affected my cognitive function and judgment. Poor investment decisions in my impaired state. A financial advisor who had taken advantage of my condition. The lake house mortgage to cover bad investments. The company shares sold at a massive loss to cover debts. The accounts drained by a combination of medical bills and financial predators. The story was designed to be believable because it happens every day. Elderly people suffer medical events, make poor decisions, lose everything to unscrupulous advisors or their own clouded judgment. My sons would have no reason to doubt it. If anything, they probably expected something like this might happen to their old man eventually. Leonard had arranged everything. Medical records showing a stroke with cognitive impairment, bank statements showing the financial decline, legal documents showing the forced sales, even a fake financial advisor who had disappeared with a significant portion of my remaining assets. It was thorough, professional, and completely believable. Standing there in thrift store clothes, preparing to test the love of my own children, I felt a desperation that was absolutely real. What if they all failed? What if the test revealed that every one of my children saw me only as a source of money? What if I discovered that I had raised 3 strangers who happened to share my DNA? I made my first phone call. Theodore, I need to see you. Something's happened. My voice trembled, and the trembling was not entirely an act. I explained about the stroke, about the bad investments, about the financial ruin. I told him I needed help, just temporary, just until I could figure things out. There was a long silence on the other end. Dad, that's a lot to process. When did all this happen? Why didn't you call me immediately? 3 weeks ago? I didn't want to worry you, and I kept thinking I could fix it. But I can't. I've lost the house, Theodore. I've lost almost everything. I just need somewhere to stay for a few days, just until I can make arrangements. Another silence, this one longer. I could practically hear him calculating the inconvenience versus his obligations as a son. Dad, I'm leaving for the Denver conference tomorrow morning. Patricia and I have been planning this for months. It's crucial for my career. I can't just cancel everything. I'm not asking you to cancel. I'm asking for a place to sleep, a couch, anything. I'm your father, Theodore. I heard him exhale, heard the sound of someone trying to solve a problem he didn't want to have. Look, Dad, This really isn't a good time. Patricia's parents are staying with us this week for Nathan's school play. We don't have room, and honestly, Patricia's already stressed about hosting everyone. But let me see what I can figure out. Can I call you back? He never called back. 3 days later, I stood outside Theodore's house in suburban Denver. The property spread across 2 acres of manicured perfection. I had paid for this house, a gift when he finished his residency. The fountain in the circular driveway that cost $60,000. I had written that check too, proud to give my son something beautiful. I rang the doorbell. I could hear voices inside, laughter, the sounds of a family gathering, people enjoying themselves without a care in the world. Theodore opened the door, and I watched his face cycle through recognition, shock, and something that looked remarkably like annoyance. Behind him, I could see his in-laws sitting comfortably in the living room I had helped furnish. "Dad, what are you doing here?" I looked at my son, this successful man in his expensive clothes, standing in his expensive house, and I felt something break inside me. "I called you 3 days ago. You never called back." "I've been sleeping in my car, Theodore. I have nowhere else to go." Behind him, I could see Patricia approaching, his wife, the woman I had welcomed into our family with a $200,000 wedding gift, looked at me the way one might look at an uninvited solicitor who had somehow made it past security. "Victor," she said, and the coolness in her voice was unmistakable. "This is unexpected." Theodore stepped partially outside and pulled the door mostly closed behind him, blocking my view of the interior, blocking me from entering, blocking me from his life. "Dad, listen. I'm sorry about what happened, but this really isn't a good time. We have Patricia's parents here. We're hosting a dinner party tomorrow for some important colleagues. There's no room. I'm not asking for a room, Theodore. I'm asking for a couch for one night. I'm your father." He rubbed the back of his neck, the gesture of a man inconvenienced by someone else's crisis, the gesture of someone calculating cost versus benefit. "Let me get you some money," he said. "There's a nice hotel about 10 miles from here. You can stay there tonight, and we'll figure something out after the conference." He disappeared inside and returned with a handful of bills. He pressed them into my hand without making eye contact. $150. "Dad, I'm really sorry. This is just bad timing. We'll talk after Denver, okay?" The door closed. I heard the deadbolt engage. I heard laughter resume inside. I stood on the porch of the house I had bought, holding $150, understanding for the first time the true cost of what I had purchased with my success. My son had just calculated my worth at the price of a hotel room and decided I wasn't worth the inconvenience. Alexander's reaction was even worse. His Manhattan penthouse building, the one where I had helped with the $400,000 down payment, felt like a fortress designed to keep people like me out. The doorman looked at my thrift store clothes and disheveled appearance with obvious disdain. "I'm here to see Alexander Pierce. I'm his father." The doorman's expression said he didn't believe me. After a brief phone conversation, he directed me to wait in the lobby like any other unwelcome visitor. When Alexander finally came down, he wouldn't even take me upstairs. "Dad, what's happened to you? You look terrible." I explained everything again. The stroke, the financial ruin, the desperate need for help. Alexander listened with his arms crossed, standing at a careful distance as if poverty might be contagious. "This is a lot to process, Dad. Gerald and I, we have routines. We have our space carefully arranged. It would be very disruptive to have someone staying with us, especially someone in your condition." He gave me $1,000 and the address of a homeless shelter. My own son handed me a business card for a homeless shelter. "There are social services that can help people in your situation, Dad. This really isn't something Gerald and I are equipped to handle." The bus ride to Linda's city took 11 hours. I sat in the back with people who had also run out of options. An older man shared his sandwich with me. A young mother smiled kindly at her children when they stared. These strangers showed me more warmth than my own sons had. Linda's apartment building was modest, a 3-story walk-up in a working-class neighborhood. When Linda opened the door, her face shifted through confusion, alarm, and then fierce protectiveness. "Dad! Oh my God, what happened? Are you okay?" She didn't hesitate. She pulled me inside, sat me down, listened to my story with tears in her eyes. When I finished, she didn't calculate inconvenience or worry about disrupting her routine. "You're staying here. Philip and I will take the couch. You're taking our bed." "Linda, I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. You're my father. This is what family does. Philip came home from teaching and immediately shook my hand. Mr. Pierce, you're welcome here as long as you need. We'll figure this out together. That night, lying in their bed, I overheard Linda and Philip talking in hushed voices in the kitchen. The medical bills are going to be significant, Linda said. Dad's going to need ongoing care. Our insurance won't cover him. What about your car? Philip asked quietly. The Honda is worth maybe $8,000. It would cover the initial evaluations and some therapy. Linda, that's your only way to get to work. I can take the bus. I can carpool. Dad needs us. And Theodore and Alexander turned him away. Both of them. They looked at our father, broken and desperate, and chose their dinner parties over their own dad. I lay in the darkness with tears streaming down my face. My daughter was planning to sell her only car to help a father she believed had lost everything. The next morning, I called Leonard. It's time, send the car. At 9 o'clock sharp, a black Mercedes pulled up. Leonard stepped out with his briefcase and 2 security guards. Neighbors gathered at windows, curious about the luxury car in their modest neighborhood. Linda answered the door in her scrubs, confused by the official-looking delegation. Dad, what's going on? I asked her to call Philip, and then I told them the truth. Everything I told you was a lie. I never had a stroke. I never lost my money. Pierce Construction is worth $89 million, and I own every share. I created this entire situation as a test. Linda stared at me in shock. Philip's expression shifted to understanding. A test? Linda whispered. You tested us? I tested all 3 of you. Theodore gave me $150 and closed the door. Alexander gave me $1,000 and sent me to a homeless shelter. But you gave me your bed and were planning to sell your car. Leonard opened his briefcase. The documents represent a restructuring of your father's estate. The majority of his assets, $69 million, will go to Linda and her family, including full ownership of the construction company. Theodore and Alexander will each receive $10 million, but with conditions. 200 hours of community service working with homeless and elderly populations. 1 year of family therapy. And written apologies to you, Linda, for how they treated your father. Linda was shaking her head. Dad, I don't need millions of dollars. I just wanted you to be okay. I know, I said, kneeling before her. That's exactly why you're receiving it. You understood that wealth isn't measured in bank accounts. It's measured in love, in sacrifice, in being there when it costs you something. 3 years later, I sit at Linda's Thanksgiving table in the house I bought them. The walls are covered with family photos. Carol, now 5, calls me Papa Victor and demands stories about building things. Theodore is here, quieter now. Changed by his community service work, he volunteers at a free clinic, finally understanding what it means to help people who can't pay. Alexander started a legal aid practice, using his skills to protect elderly people from financial exploitation. Before we eat, Theodore stands like he does every year now. 3 years ago, I closed the door on my father because I had a dinner party. I gave him $150 and sent him away. Linda never forgot what family means. She gave him everything because she understood that family means showing up, means sacrifice, means love without conditions. My name is Victor Pierce. I built an empire worth $89 million and nearly lost my children because I forgot to teach them what money was for. Real wealth isn't in your portfolio. It's measured in the people who would give you their last dollar when they think you have none. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give your children isn't your money. It's the chance to prove they don't need it to love you. I spent 43 years building a fortune to secure my family's future, only to discover that the most valuable inheritance I could leave them was the lesson that character matters more than cash.